geoholic.
Hey, man, you ready?
Love it.
You came flying in here like a bat out of hell.
Yeah, set up and ready to go.
Has your heartbeat,
7 minutes.
Has your heartbeat come down a little bit?
No,
it's still up there.
No.
Still raging.
No, I want to keep it going.
All right. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Here we are, episode 268.
268, believe it or not.
Yes. And our guest this evening was last on at episode 124.
I love the repeat offenders.
Yes, exactly. I can't believe it's been that long. This is a guest we should have on every single year. We're going to get to him
if possible, yes.
in a minute. So, welcome back, Geoholics. A little bit to catch up on. We just got back from Trimble Dimensions.
We did.
And
feels like that was this morning, but yes.
this morning, you're right. Had an amazing show there. And all I can say is, Stacey Hartman with Keaton PR, you are an angel.
I mean, we cannot say enough about Stacey.
We cannot. It's like they had all of our interviews lined up for us. We just had to sit there and people were just like commenting. And she's like, next. It was awesome.
And every single interview was amazing.
Oh man.
We could have turned into an hour on each person. It was so cool.
Sure. People from all over the world we talked to. France, Denmark.
Yeah.
You name it. We talked to them. It was fantastic.
I really want to get those out because that's some good stuff there.
The only other thing I want to mention before we move on and get to our guest here in a second is we are renewing our Friends of the Program for 2026.
We are.
So we have multiple opportunities as far as different levels of sponsorship that you could engage in. And we're going to be releasing that information very shortly. So if it's something you're interested in, all I got to say is there is tremendous exposure with this. With our numbers over the last couple of years, the direction they're going.
Targeted audience, increased listenership, viewership. Yep. Man, just hit us up. Info at thegeoholics.com. Let us know.
Yep. Actual return on investment.
Yes. Proven.
All right. This episode, as has been all year, is powered by MLID. MLID, making aerial and terrestrial surveys faster and easier than ever before. To find out more, go to emlid.com. What's up, man? Besides you running here like crazy.
Just busy, spending a couple of days up in Las Vegas. It's a busy time of year.
Busy time of year. Venetian's not such a bad place.
Man. Yes. Thank you to the Venetian staff. A little bit of upgrades for us just by standing in line, I guess. I don't know. It's pretty amazing.
Yes, indeed. Could not say enough. What's new with me, you ask? Jeez.
Always. I'm so concerned.
You know what? It's just kind of, I'm like you, just trying to catch up. You're gone for 2.5 days, whatever. Both of us have very demanding full-time jobs still, unfortunately. And there's a time that you need to catch your breath and just get caught up before you carry on about your business. So I've been in that mode as well. Other than that, everything's good. Our song of the week, producer Sean, do you have that keyed up for us?
I do. A group called Spafford. That song, I believe, was Doghouse. A little bit about them. Spafford is a genre-defying jam band known for their high-energy improvisation, some people say, seamless music transition, and electrifying live performances. Formed in, believe it or not, Prescott, Arizona.
Yeah. It's a lovely town.
It really is. They blend rock, funk, electronica, jazz influences into a sound uniquely their own. They dedicated fan base affectionately called Spaff Nerds. Love that name.
Like that.
Has grown through the years of relentless touring and legendary Never the Same Twice shows. With a reputation of musical risk-taking and deep connection with their audience, Spafford continues to push the boundaries of modern jam music.
Are you familiar with them?
A little bit, yeah. I've heard them around. I don't know if I would consider myself a
fan.
I mean, I like it. I'm just not I don't know enough about them.
You're not going to be a Spaff nerd.
I don't know. There's always a possibility.
Never say never. Our song of the week is brought to you, as always, by Altera Central, your Trimble dealer for all things survey, mapping, and even marine gear. Check out alteracentral.com. And it was good to see our good friend Scott Spears
at
Trimble Dimensions.
See Scott Spears.
Always good to catch up with him. All right. Next up is our GeoNet count of the week.
Yeah, you ready for this?
Yes.
Bit about GeoNet. By setting up a GeoNet satellite reference station, GeoNet miners not only earn passive crypto income, but also empower critical sectors to function in the real world with precision navigation, including artificially intelligent robots, drones, autonomous vehicles, augmented reality, and the metaverse.
Just
always throw in the metaverse, don't you?
I throw it in everywhere I can.
Yeah, I don't think...
Just because I don't even know if it still exists.
You want somebody to tell you.
It used to be a really cool term.
You didn't include this, but I am curious, before I give the current count, what's the status on the GeoHolics GeoNet miner there, KG?
The status of that miner
is it still sitting in a box behind us in the corner of the studio?
Same as your dad's miner.
It's sitting in a box in the corner of the studio. Oh, we need to get that sucker up. We really need to get our act together. Current count: 20,298 satellite miners, over 4,500 cities, and 151 countries.
Crazy. Follow them on LinkedIn. It's so exciting to see their growth. It's pretty incredible. To find out more, visit GeoNet, GeoDnet, geonet.com. Be sure to click on the Find a Hex tab. This is where you can find out if your hexagon is available for a miner.
Sure.
I should probably go back and check that, because
by now
that hexagon is probably not available. So, dang it, I'm such an idiot. All right, our guest this week are brought to you by David Evans and Associates. To find out more about the DEA difference, visit DEAINC.com. We got to interview a fellow DEA employee at Trimble Dimension.
What do you call yourselves? DEAers or
DEA nerds?
DEA nerds?
Yeah, DEA nerds.
DEA nerds.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I figured.
All right, we've got Keith Masback with us this week. Super excited. It's safe to say that Keith is a true giant in the world of GEOINT.
I believe so, yes.
Someone whose fingerprint can be found across national defense, commercial space, education, and the very architecture of modern geospatial intelligence. Keith is the owner of Plum Run LLC, where he advises and invests in some of the most exciting deep tech startups shaping the future of intelligence. We're going to talk more about that. He's got some cool stuff going on. Before that, he spent over a decade leading USGIF, where he helped transform the foundation of GEOINT, education, accreditation, and community building. And long before his commercial and nonprofit leadership, Keith served as a senior executive at NGA, an Army intelligence officer. Thank you for your service, sir. And one of the early architects of integrated ISR for the U.S. military. He's a fellow of the American Geographical Society, a member of the National Academy's Geographical and Geospatial Sciences Committee. And if that's not enough, he also advises organizations from the Global SOF Foundation, a lot of acronyms here, to the International Spy Museum. You're not going to want to miss this one. Keith, back in the studio. Welcome to the GeoHolics, sir.
Thrilled to be back. There was a similar hyperbolic introduction, I think, last time. So I am once again challenged to live up to that.
I think last time I mentioned more of the awards and things that you've received. So I tried to scale that back and just focus on the important stuff. How about that?
No, I appreciate it.
Still one of the largest intro sections we've had.
I couldn't, as much as I could shorten it.
Still seems excessive.
The man's bio is unbelievable. So anyways.
That's what happens when you can't keep a job.
You just start making more jobs for yourself. Fair enough. So how have you been, sir?
I've been doing really well, thanks. Yeah. When was that last episode?
Probably 3 years ago.
Yeah,
so right before producer Sean joined us,
aka The Awakening.
Let's see. I've had my oldest son and his wife had a couple grandchildren.
Oh, nice!
And so that's wonderful. I guess they're children to them; they're grandchildren to me. I've gotten engaged to be married, which is wonderful.
That's very cool.
And, we're currently renovating a home together and still together. So that's
cool. That's a tester right there. You'll know after that.
That seems worthy of the introduction. And a little back surgery because that's what you pay for the price of the Army allowing you to jump out of airplanes. It was usually back surgery and bad knees, but it was worth it.
Yep. Sounds like a gift.
I also think I read somewhere, you're also a soccer federation referee?
I was back, and actually, I'd love to do that again. I played in my whole life, and then I coached my kids, and then the ability to referee was just as I got older to stay in touch with the game. There's also a huge challenge with keeping youth referees because of the aggressiveness of the parents
Oh,
to the
sure.
referees, and so
Wow.
you combine the ignorance on the part of the parents with the laws of the game, with young people trying to referee to be out there so those parents' children can play soccer. And
Jeez.
it's unfortunately it's really ugly. So the need for adult referees for youth leagues
Mm.
is really uh, ongoing. So I'd love to start doing that again, actually.
Well, especially ones that have been in the military, so they can kind of push back on the parents a little bit.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
You
don't
know,
have
they know
any
how to
trouble.
deal with. Yeah, right.
I have no trouble with the parents.
I can't imagine you do. So speaking of that, having worked in the Army, of course, the intelligence community, now with tech startups, what keeps you excited about the geospatial work after all these years?
I think it's the evolution and the ability now to be old enough to have been involved in visioning what we believed the future could be 20, 25 years ago. And that future didn't arrive as quickly as we imagined, but it's sort of started to arrive, right? The things that were holding it back were processing power and comms bandwidth and the proliferation of commercial remote sensing and software, that needed to evolve. We could see it coming, and we tried to instantiate things well before the technology supported it, right? I think we might all remember carrying around hard drives because files were so big to move them. If you look back to Desert Shield, Desert Storm, digital imagery from the national security classified satellites was that imagery came down digitally, was printed, stacked on pallets, and flown in C-5 cargo aircraft to
Jeez.
the forces in Desert Shield, Desert Storm. So we had moved to
That's
digital
crazy.
imaging, but we had no ability to digitally disseminate it. So it just there was a uneven, asynchronous way that the technologies worked their way in to allow the things that we imagined then to begin to happen. So to have had the arc in this field, so to have been from those days, a transitioning days where we were moving from paper and wet film to digital, and now to watch where it's headed from here has really been exciting. And so it's just fun to be part of that. And it's fun to try and challenge each other to think about what's next.
Yeah. And like you've been, you were an early adopter of these technologies. So I can only imagine the growth and the, evolution that you've seen. It's unbelievable. And it's like there's something new every day right at this point. It's crazy.
Indeed.
It's nuts.
And it's this explosion in the commercial world and the investment. And I truly think that's such a significant competitive differentiator for the United States. And, the DoD is once again struggling and working hard to talk about acquisition reform and how to take advantage of this. But, the massive private investment and the entrepreneurship of these founders and founding teams doing eye-watering things. If we really could harness that, we'd take a huge leap forward. But we're still, from a government perspective, right? We're still plodding along. That's in DoD, that's in the IC, and that's in the federal civilian community as well.
Yeah, and I think it's safe to say that the government and the private sector are working more closely together now than ever before.
Well, it kind of has to, right? Because the innovation isn't going to come from inside the government. The government had the money, the capex to put into things like GPS, right, which unlocked this amazing economic opportunity that no one could have really fully appreciated was coming. And that kind of, there are going to be niche things that are going to be developed inside the government where they have the money to put into very specific capabilities to gain an opportunity. But the rest of it is going to come out of the commercial world. And so again, it's taking advantage of that incredible investment and entrepreneurial spirit and applying that towards all manner of challenges, right? Whether it's national security related or natural disaster related, or simply to give an advantage to U.S. based companies in the global marketplace.
Yeah, and like, I'm going to give you an opportunity to plug a company we were just talking about right before we got on here, and it's a company you're very familiar with. I think you're an investor and advisor. A company called Zona. We got to interview Brian Manning was his name at Trimble Dimension.
Yeah, the CEO.
CEO, and unbelievable what these guys are doing. Yeah. Talk a little bit about that, and like that's a good example of what you were just sharing.
Yeah, I came across those guys probably in 2019-ish.
Wow.
And just was the vision was right. Their background was right. It's how I take a look at what I'm going to do in terms of my early stage investments. Do I believe in the team? Do I believe in what they are, the challenge they're attempting to take on and the problem they're solving? And do I believe I can help? Right. Because that's just my thesis is whether I'm a formal advisor or not, I want to be able to add some value beyond writing a check. And Brian and team, several of them emerged out of the Stanford GPS lab, so they knew the technology intimately. One of the founders had come from Ford, where he was working on telematics and wayfinding, and they understood. Right, there was no secret that we were moving to a world where precision navigation was going to be critically important, and we're reliant on an aging GPS architecture, and of course the Chinese have Baidu, and the Europeans have their system, and the Russians have theirs, but that there was going to be we needed more power, Scotty, right? So there needed to be an ability to get that through into indoor spaces, into urban canyons, to make it available, because we were going to be dependent on that signal. Those satellites are pretty far away. And so the idea of putting a constellation into low Earth orbit that could take those signals and, blast them down, if you will, in a much more powerful way would be such a critical enabler for all this infrastructure that continues to be built reliant on those precision signals.
Yeah, I think an example he mentioned was, I don't think he mentioned the company, but there's a company that wanted him to track the location of their vending machines. This high accuracy indoor, location was crucial to them.
Right, and it could bust through a couple walls.
It's crazy,
man. And then if you think about in the traditional surveying space, man, that's a game changer. Even next to a building is now not an issue when, we have entire workarounds based on the availability of this signal. And it has the potential to change all of that.
Yeah. And as a geo nerd, right, it's fascinating to see how reliant everyone is on this technology and how little they know about it, right? Oh, man, I didn't get to the party last night because my GPS was broken. I was like, brother, I'm pretty sure your GPS receiver was just fine. I think your data was wonky. But
hilarious.
We take it for granted because we work in it and we understand it. But we also most people accept, I'm in New York City. I'm just not going to, it's not going to be a great way for me to get around. I need to figure out another way, or I'm indoors, so I can't use this. And Zona is gonna change all that, and we're gonna look back and we're go, man, we used to just accept that if we were in an urban canyon, we couldn't use this technology that we used everywhere else in everything we did.
Yeah, crazy.
It's remarkable.
Game changer stuff, no doubt.
And it's an example of like Brian was telling us, like the initial infrastructure was built by the government and by the military for that purpose. And now it seems like that's kind of switched. Like Keith was saying, now the private sector is the one really pushing the envelope more. And it's just it's a whole different model, right? I mean, how we're developing new technology is now really like on that entrepreneurial spirit. And I guess I'm curious. So in the Zona example, we're taking this old technology and looking back and there's limitations because it was based on what the government needed at that time. Keith, do you think that we're going to look back 20 years from now at what we're developing now because it's purely commercial. Is there going to be any kind of look back, like he's saying, from when we did develop GPS?
Yeah, I'm sure there will. I'm associated. My very first investment, my first advising gig was with a company called Hermeus, right? And they're building hypersonic aircraft. So that's Mach 5. So there's companies like Boom and others that are doing, which I've always found to be a strange name for a company to build a plane, but I get it. But they're doing really important work, right? And they're building on the concept of the Concorde, but taking on a lot of the challenges that Concorde had in terms of fuel efficiency and comfort, and they're going to be able to go, faster than that. And so they're seeing uptake and, commitments from airlines and so forth. And that's a critically important next step. NASA just flew their supersonic aircraft, which is taking on the challenge of being able to fly supersonic without a sonic boom, based on how it's going to be, how it's designed. And then Hermeus, though, Mach 5, right? So that's 5 times faster.
Crazy.
The ability to be in New York and go to Paris for dinner is what we start talking about then. And that really begins, we talk about technologies shrinking the world. That's really part of the vision of Hermeus, is when you can shrink the world, you're actually going to be able to be places very quickly in these remarkable timelines. It changes the way we think about things, because to your point, there's just things we accept as the way they are. And there are certain technologies that are going to have us looking back and saying, man, it's crazy that we thought that that's just the way it had to be.
David Evans and Associates. This one's near and dear to my heart. I'll be honest with you. At DEA, they join their clients to make a positive difference. DEA is a recognized leader in the design and management of complex transportation, land development, water resources, and energy projects nationwide.
Great group of people over there. They combine the talents of engineers, surveyors, planners, hydrographers, landscape architects, and natural resource scientists to provide their clients access to a complete range of services.
DEA is consistently ranked among ENR's top 100 peer design firms in the U.S. and among leaders in many of their local markets.
That's right. To find out more, visit www.deainc.com.
Trimble Geospatial. For generations, surveying and mapping professionals have looked to Trimble Geospatial for the industry's most trusted hardware and software solutions. Designed by and for surveyors, Trimble solutions help customers work faster, safer, and more sustainably.
Dedicated to big thinking innovation, together with their worldwide distributor partners, the Trimble Geospatial team is working with current and future generations of surveyors for a more sustainable future.
To find out more, visit geospatial.trimble.com. That's so just accepted it, right?
Right.
So funny. So before we go on, even like in your intro, I mentioned GEOINT a couple times. We're going to mention it again. Define what that is exactly for our listeners.
So there is a legal definition, right? And I think we talked about that quite a bit last time. I have a definition that we developed as a team. This is the one I carry, is one we developed as a team when I was at USGIF with our volunteers and our staff. I refer to it as the intersection of 4 things. So it's remote sensing, from phones to drones to aerostats, to airplanes to aerostats to space. So that's 1. 2 is geospatial data and information of all types and layers, from the seafloor extending to space, physical geography, political geography, human geography, right? Everything you could pull into that definition. Geography is super expansive. It sometimes very frustratingly gets boiled down to GIS, but it's as we know, it's far more than that. And then it's data analytics, right, which is taking on a whole new meaning with the advent of large language models and things going on in artificial intelligence. And then it's data visualization. It's conveying that information in a way that's more readily usable by someone or something. And all of that together, the intersection of those things towards some end, to enable an action, to enable a decision. to me, that's the most fulsome definition of geospatial intelligence. It's a little bit at odds with the legal definition, which was created when the National Imagery and Mapping Agency was, my word, transmogrified into the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency.
Mm.
So all those different like intelligence systems and ways to collect data, what's the biggest challenge or hardest part about making everything, interoperable?
Yeah, so this is something that some would have repeatedly suggested has been solved, but I think it remains a significant challenge, and that is indeed, to your point, interoperability. So how does it all come together? How do we take all these disparate inputs and bring them together so that there is one clear set of output, right, that is usable, applicable? And I actually believe that it all goes back to standards. No, this is a conversation that sometimes gets people just, feeling a little bit queasy. It usually will entice people to change the subject if you bring up the word standards, and it gets to data and it gets to metadata. See, we're so past that. We're so intellectually past all that's boring. It's pedestrian.
Yeah.
But man, if you don't get that right, which many people don't do, I hear you chuckling, then you don't get the rest of the payoff. You don't get all the other goodies if you don't manage the data and the metadata and the standards. And there's a couple sayings about standards. One is standards are critically important. That's why everybody has their own, right? And two is standards are like noses. Standards are like noses. You'd always rather pick yours than somebody else's. So we've got to get past that. We've got to be able to agree on standards. And organization like the Open Geospatial Consortium, that is one of the critical enablers of our field, is that they exist and they created this global discussion that said, if we don't get our act together collectively in various industry verticals around this spatial stuff, we're all screwed. And so quietly, OGC over time has just made progress, has just worked its way forward. And I think you really, truly can trace back the fact that the geospatial community has moved forward so quickly in no small part to the Open Geospatial Consortium and the work they've done.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things you mentioned, it was a quote that we still use in many of our posts and conversations when we had a conversation with you 3 years ago, is you said, we're in a geospatial moment. How has that moment changed over the course of the last 3 years?
I think the moment has continued to blossom. I'm a little concerned that it's going to be the moment, like a Pac-Man, that Geo AI is going to eat the moment, right?
Wow.
I'm not a Geo AI denier. I'm concerned that if each of the three of us says Geo AI, we are all meaning something different, and it actually could serve to inhibit our progress. You may ask me next, so I'm gonna stop it from happening. I don't know that I have a satisfactory, fulsome definition of Geo AI that I would propose. So I just did something I really try to avoid, which is presenting a problem without proposing a solution. But I think we are going to find ourselves inhibited by this term if we don't work out the details.
Yeah, but isn't the challenge, that's going to pass us by pretty quickly, right? Action needs to be taken.
Yeah, but that is one action, right? If we ignore it and don't define it and allow ourselves to just play with it long enough, we'll be on to the next thing, and we never will have had to do the hard work of figuring out what it is.
Gotcha.
So inaction is a strategy.
Inaction strategy. I like that. That's great. So talk about AI a little bit more. How does, what's the balance between, what does it look like to you from your perspective between traditional mapping and today's like real time, AI powered geospatial tools? How is this going to morph over the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, I'm as I look at the future, and again, one of the benefits of aging is perspective. And so I referenced earlier this transition from digital, from analog to digital back in the day. And when I first got involved in this community, and I first worked at then the National Imagery and Mapping Agency, I learned about something that I always referred to as the sanctity of the seal, right? So a lot of the geospatial data going back to Defense Mapping Agency days was done in St. Louis, massive German printing presses. Geospatial information and data being created, sent to the presses, taken over, handed over to the Defense Logistics Agency, taken to Scott Air Force Base, and flown all over the globe into giant map warehouses. And that agency, that culture, going back to DMA and then NEMA and now NGA, had this intense pride that when those maps got printed, they were right. When they started to get digitized, that was one immediate step, was essentially digitizing a paper map. And people said, all right, I now have an electronic map. And I go, no, you don't have an electronic map. You have a digital rendering of a paper map.
Right. Yeah.
But over time, right, that data did get richer, right? But this idea that I could be deployed in the Army and I could approach a bridge during an operation, and my map tells me that bridge is there. My eyes tell me it's not. In a burgeoning electronic version of that map, I could annotate that bridge is no longer passable. And that should be disseminated to all the units in the area very rapidly. It could be in a different color, right? Because you couldn't violate the sanctity of the seal. And there's a reason for this story, I promise. Mm-hmm. So a lot of consternation about that. But just think about it. Even when those maps arrived in U.S. PACOM to go into the Raiders of the Lost Ark type warehouse with all the other maps of the entire, think of 1 to 50 maps of the entire PACOM area of operations, and then those being refreshed on a periodic basis. Just think about the tonnage of maps in there. But even when they arrived there, they were already out of date. Because of, if you walk back to the collection of the data and the verification and the creation of the map and the going to the printer and going and flown and then being pulled off the shelf and new ones being put on, they were outdated when they arrived, but they were absolutely, truly right when they were printed, or a little bit before that. So anyway, I bring this forward to today because there was so much consternation about, well, how can anybody else make a mark on that map? Our greatest map makers are working every day, night and day, 24/7, 365 to create these perfect maps so that our submarines don't hit things they aren't supposed to under the water. Our planes don't fly into vertical obstacles. Our soldiers and Marines are able to maneuver in the littoral and in all regions of the world. So how do we now think about AI involved in that process when we all know right now, if we ask AI to do certain things, that there's hallucinations?
Sure.
So what's the impact of a hallucination on a submarine captain who's making decisions about where to maneuver? If AI has been involved in the generation of that nautical chart, how do we manage taking advantage? And this has been a long time challenge. How do we take advantage of what the technology can do for us, combined with what great skill and experienced humans can do, and get the most efficient, effective output of that team, playing to the strengths of both and mitigating the weaknesses of both? That's sort of what I'm thinking about when it comes to AI right now.
Yeah. Well, that's super powerful and scary.
Well, if you think about what are the big weaknesses of the AI component, it's the hallucinations, right? Mm-hmm. And the strengths is obviously just the accuracy. But we always talk about that the concept of, okay, AI is going to get a lot of this work done, so we have so much more time to work on QC and QA, and we can spend way more time making sure it's absolutely right. Yep. I always consider that the benefit. Do you see it the same way, Keith?
Yeah, but you just in that proposal, you kind of articulated what I just described. What's the machine do well? What does the human do well? Let's make sure they're both optimized for their roles in this process. Let the machines crank out volume. Let the humans rely on experience and training and learning to do the QA QC. Over time, certainly machines will be able to do QA QC and then promote issues of concern to humans to adjudicate. Right. That's happening. So there will continue to be advances, but I'm still carry around this idea of the sanctity of the seal. When the seal goes on there, who's the one promising the pilot, promising the navigator, promising the soldier, the Coast Guardsman that it's right? Who's standing behind it?
Well, does that go back to the guy that, like in the example you gave, like you're walking down the road and there's not a bridge here.
Yeah.
The map says there's a bridge here, but I see it with my own eyes. It's not there.
Yep.
And how do we get over that?
How does that get into the system?
It's scary.
Right. How do I annotate it? And I used to joke in an unfair way. Well, if I saw that somebody, I was going on an operation and I saw that somebody had annotated a change, and it said when they annotated it, what the change was from the authoritative, and that's a whole nother conversation, the authoritative geospatial data. If it was a soft unit, Green Berets, I go, okay, I think I'm safe to maneuver on that data. If it was and again, this is terribly unfair, if it was a reserve water purification unit, that annotated that, I'm not sure that I'm betting my rifle platoon, my rifle company, my maneuver strategy on that, just because it's not a thing that they do very often. Sure. So I'm glad they put it there, but I might just need to fly a drone. I might need to do something to make myself feel better about that. But that's not something that I guess AI could certainly be trained to think skeptically like that. But there's a lot of rich and interesting fodder in those discussions.
Yeah. And at one point, does the idea of that you have to verify it and hallucinations are possible with the AI component, does it just provide no value because you just absolutely have to verify it? I mean, if in that case, if that annotation is noted right there, well, AI said there might be something here. Well, does that even do anything?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, you're not going to trust it, and you can't.
True.
Right.
So, well, then what's the value?
Well, I believe the tools will get smarter over time. We have a responsibility to put the effort in to get them smarter over time. We all know we observe daily in our interaction with AI that it's garbage in, garbage out, and that there's a lot more garbage out there than not. So it is a challenge, and we work in a very in a field that requires great precision and great authoritativeness, if you will. Right? We tell people the work that we all do that this is right.
Yeah, let's circle back on GEOINT just one more time, because I think this is a really interesting question. Based on your experience and your wisdom and your knowledge and everything that you've experienced, if you were designing the future GEOINT system from scratch today, what would it look like, or what's something that you absolutely would think needs to be included?
So I'm going to make a confession here. I've probably confessed this to some number of people, but I'll go big here. We had a vision that if we took in the national security community, a number of people had a vision, and I'm going to cop to being at the scene of the crime and believing at the time that if we took geospatial data and information in a defense mapping agency context, and we took remote sensing, primarily then represented by classified remote sensing systems, which were the things from which, right, the data from which those maps and geospatial data were created. And we took the people who did the analysis of that imagery and kind of anything associated with it, again, mapping, charting, geodesy, precision navigation, and timing. all of that together and put it together, there would be this great synergy because they were all so obviously connected. But in the government, they were rather disconnected. And so we thought, well, if we, again, it was a pragmatic exercise to call it, we had this vision to put it all together and integrate it. And yet it was so bureaucratically contentious that we had to call it the National Imagery and Mapping Agency. So we couldn't even combine it in the name except with an ampersand because everybody wanted to be
awesome.
still seen. Everybody wanted to still be feted and memorialized. So we couldn't get rid of anybody's name and legacy. We could it was a shotgun marriage, right?
Yeah.
And then we finally did, and again, I'm pretty sure I talked about this last time, but so we did have an opportunity to merge them. And we said, all right, let's keep geospatial as a nod to the mapping community, and let's keep intelligence as a nod to the imagery analysis community, because that's where they came from. And very importantly, we have to take this agency now called NIMA, NIMA, National Imagery and Mapping Agency, and we've got to get it down to 3 letters because that's all the cool
rule.
Agencies. Only cool agencies at the big person's table have 3 letters, and Nemo's over there at the kids' table. So we created a magic hyphen. So National Geospatial hyphen Intelligence Agency is 3 letters. 3, try that again. And that's NGA. And so that was the time where we were able to name this thing. We took another leap forward and said, all right, we had the shotgun marriage, but now we've actually got a real marriage, and these things are together and they're joined, and we're going to be stronger because of that. And so back to your question, I occasionally do return to your question. I would observe that we were either wrong in our vision that bringing it all together was going to create all this synergy and open things up and open up new opportunities, or we did it. We pulled it off. We charted it out and implemented it incorrectly. Because I worry that, and that's beyond just the national security, it's beyond just NGA, but because we've collapsed all these things in on each other, we've lost some level of the expertise of the individual fields. So we have, and again, I contend this goes beyond just the government, that we have sort of the proverbial jacks of all trades, but masters of maybe not none, but masters of few. Mm-hmm. And there's just no replacement for expertise, deep expertise. And so have we homogenized all this to the point that we've lost the depth of expertise because you're punished in some ways, in some places, for being very, very narrow, but very, very deep, because you can't contribute in a way that someone that brings a broader portfolio, right? And so think about that in your own hiring. Are you hiring someone who can do a couple of jobs, or someone who brings this depth of expertise? And I think unfortunately, there's been a trade-off, and I worry about the dilution of expertise.
You're saying like people aren't becoming what's the word where you go from not an expert, but a master craftsman, or like we're getting away from that. This is the one thing that I do, and I do it really, really, really well. Are you saying we're kind of getting away from that?
I think so, because I think there's a pressure that has been building over time in the geospatial community that I need you to come with, you got to understand a bit about remote sensing, and you have to understand, in order to be a good surveyor, and you need to understand GIS tools, and you need to understand data management, and you're incomplete if you can't do all of that. But that, and so one specific place where it's actually becoming a bit of a national crisis is in the mapping, charting, and geodesy world. This idea of the math models of the world and gravity models of the world. We owned those because we grew experts in academia and gave them opportunities to work inside the government. And so the United States is not so reluctant to do this. We imposed our models on the world because we had the world's experts. And now we're like graduating like something, I don't know the exact numbers, but it's something like low, tens of these people now. Right. And so agencies and businesses are having a hard time finding people who come with those skills. And yet, other countries are starting to crank them out, and we are ceding our leadership, our ability to own and, sort of, in a very American centric way, dictate, those models to the world. Yeah. And, so we begin to lose track of that and the ability to manage it. And I think there's, again, this, dilution of expertise happening. And, I'm sorry. And AI isn't going to help. Right.
No, it takes it further away. But is it like, do you think we're getting that sense of, well, we just need one of those guys? Like, everybody doesn't need an expert geodesist. I just need one to exist and we can all rely on that one guy. That's almost what it feels like, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, like the one person in the tribe.
Yeah.
I just need the one, but no, you can't go on vacation, and no, I can't have you doing anything dangerous because you're the one.
Yeah. You're the one guy that knows how to fix this thing that everybody relies on.
Yeah. Right. Like who's watching the atomic clock at the Naval Observatory? How many experts on that are we turning out?
Yeah, I'm sure we're down to expert.
Right.
And when there's a problem, it doesn't break. Yeah,
we got to bring in
on vacation.
Well, when there's a problem, we have to call retired, women and men to come in. Right.
Yeah, you're right. That's what it feels like.
Yep, do the thing. So you mentioned surveyors. I'm a professional land surveyor by trade, have been for 35 years.
Oh, never heard that.
What role do you see surveyors playing in all of this? And are they missing the boat in any way?
Well, man, it's interesting because I've been invited very kindly to speak at audiences that include a lot of surveyors, and I have observed over time. And maybe I'd love to hear that I'm wrong now because I'm certainly not super current on it. But I began to observe that this was, not unlike religious institutions. There's a lot of gray hair, and in that community, and a lot of what I would observe resistance to new technologies and change, and that there was a way it was always done, and it was good enough then. And it's good enough now, and maybe we'll incorporate some new tools now and again, but very slowly, very deliberately, very thoughtfully, because this is very precise, and we hold the keys to the kingdom of precision, and therefore we must move deliberately like those before us. And so if there is a new breed coming that is going to create discomfort and change in the surveying community, I'd be ecstatic. And so I'd love for that to be what you say after I'm done. But that's not certainly what I observed over time. I have observed over time.
Yeah. No,
what do you think?
I can't disagree, unfortunately.
But you're on the gray hair side, so.
Yeah. I mean, it's, we have a problem. There's no doubt. Yeah, we have a problem.
But I think what Keith is really asking, let's say us and maybe you, and I'll ask you, flip it around a little bit. We go to all these things. We see the best. We are few people that see this community more than anyone else.
Yeah.
And there is kind of a younger generation, and there is a group coming up. How do you see that group compared to your generation?
More advanced while they're getting into the profession, initially, definitely.
Do you think, and maybe I'll ask the Keith's question, do you think that they are losing the high accuracy, precision, and deliberateness from the previous generation?
I do. Yeah, I would agree.
So what do we do about that?
Oh my gosh! So this is like even a worse answer than I was thinking.
Yes, it does exist, and it's bad.
It's bad.
Pressed later.
Yeah. I'm not sugarcoating it. It's bad.
I want
Yeah.
them to be pushing you. I want them to be challenging you. I want them to be making you uncomfortable. I want them to learn everything you can teach them,
Yeah.
and then be teaching you stuff that they're bringing.
Well, I think
And
the
that's what I was hoping
uncomfortableness
the answer would
exists.
be.
It's just not, it's uncomfortable
Mhm.
for the wrong reasons, not the ones that you
Not the
like.
ones you're wanting. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And I think it goes back to basics. I think a lot of these, younger people that are entering the profession, don't understand the why behind it, right? And they have a data collector and they have their GPS, and then, it's the ghost in the machine type thing. Hey, it's telling me this, it's got to be right, without understanding the why.
Uh, and I agree. And one thing that I've noticed, and we are starting to not, we're starting to have to answer the question sometimes by necessity, but not every single application needs the super high accuracy.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think that is starting to, we're starting to look at the, like you said, the why, but really this, what do I actually need?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
And not taking every single project of, okay, let's start with, I need less than 100.
We need to opus 5 points here.
Right.
Not necessary. Not necessary. It just depends what the end user is expecting, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think that question is being asked a lot more now than it had been previously.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good thing.
1,000%, especially with all the reality capture stuff that's happening and the scanning and this and that. And a lot of the right questions are being asked.
Can we ask Keith what reality capture is?
Sure.
What was it, like a test?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't LiDAR.
How would you define that? Is we've been asking a few people, and I'm just curious what your definition is.
My definition would be that it's an integration of multiple sensor types. Gee, see if there's a theme here tonight. Right, and so LiDAR is a basis for it. The ability to start laying, different layers together till it becomes something that starts to resemble what we deal with every day as humans through our sensors and our integration device, and allows us to feel more comfortable interacting with that those data and that information, because it approximates the world that we live in all the time. I don't know, probably too lengthy, but that's how I'd go at it, I think.
Yeah, no, I like that perspective for sure. Let's circle back real quick on, you as an investor and an advisor. When you're looking at like startup, what do you look for in a startup founder that you believe can really change the geospatial world? What are you looking for when you're considering investing?
I think it is expertise, as I mentioned. When you look at where the guys and gals at Zona come from, for instance, right? A number of them coming out of the GPS lab at Stanford, the gold standard of understanding PNT. So I am looking for expertise, but at the same time, there has to be an ability to understand, to be able to challenge things. So engineers, I've got a strong liberal arts background and a lot of ignorance in the hard sciences. So I've always loved being in the gray. I love taking courses where I could argue my way to a grade, and I found science and math to be super unsatisfying in that regard.
Yeah, I can see that.
They were absolutes, right? There's no wiggle room. I could go toe to toe with a professor in college about what Frost meant when he wrote a poem, because he wasn't there and I wasn't there. And unless, the professor has read some direct quote from Frost where he mentioned it, my opinion's as good as his, as long as I can support mine.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm looking for engineers often who have great depth of expertise and background in academia, but also had the opportunity through some initial time in the working world to hone that, to deliver in a structured environment, to be good workers, and then to have an idea, to have a spark, to come together with some other founders, to create a founding team, to have a vision, to have the risk taking mentality, the entrepreneurship, to then go start something. But they've got to be that combination, though, and it's a rare combination to have A founding team's got to have the engineering depth and expertise in a deep tech environment. And they also have to be able to be leaders, and even more daunting often for them, well, maybe it's inverse. Managing is probably a little easier because that can often be broken down into numbers.
Right.
But leading is tough. And I have found, I've been so fortunate to work with a bunch of founding teams where I've been able to roll into a coaching and mentoring role, and being able to engage with them on leadership. But it's that combination, and you just have to get a sense of it, right? And you see it. I would think when you spoke with Brian Manning, for instance, he and his team, they have that combination of absolute applied expertise and an ability to have vision and to be able to deal with uncertainty and to lead and manage.
Bad Elf, another OG.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt about it. Bad Elf's line of GNSS receivers empower GIS and survey professionals to collect high-accuracy field data using any phone, tablet, or laptop. Their products work with any location-based app running in iOS, Android, and Windows.
That's right. Their flagship Bad Elf Flex GNSS receiver is the first survey-grade receiver to support a flexible, pay only the accuracy you need daily token model that minimizes upfront costs and eliminates monthly subscriptions. Hear, hear.
Now your entire team can collect high accuracy data when needed while staying within your budget. To find out more, visit bad-elf.com.
Let's talk about Carlson Software. Founded in 1983, Carlson Software is a privately owned international market leader in CAD design software, field data collection, laser measurement, and machine control products for the civil engineering, surveying, GIS, construction, accident reconstruction, and mining industries worldwide, providing one-source technology solutions for the entire project cycle.
You're dialed in right now.
I know, right?
Carlson's culture is always on the forefront of adapting and developing new technologies into practical applications while remaining rooted in the down-to-earth industries they serve.
Carlson Software's renowned dedication to customer service is unique in the industry. To find out more, visit
carlsonsw.com.
Yep. And I like how Keith separates those two, leading and managing. And you can manage with numbers, but you can't inspire with numbers, and that's what leaders do. And you see it right away.
Yeah.
Like I said,
you can you can threaten with numbers, you can cajole with numbers, you can punish with numbers. But I think you put it really well. It's hard to inspire with numbers. People try,
right,
but it's not quite cut it.
Yeah. No, well said for sure. I know we've jumped around a lot here with you, Keith, but want to tap your brain on this one. You've helped build, this network of university GEOINT programs. What skills do students need today that maybe weren't important 10 years ago? Yeah,
it's interesting. So, I got to USGIF in 2008 and was there for about a decade. We had an early group of volunteers because the earliest days, geospatial intelligence, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency that I referenced, was created in the National Defense Authorization Act, I think, of 2004. So, it came into being 1 October 2003, if I recall correctly. And some volunteers, as USGIF was created shortly thereafter, a bunch of volunteers just kind of sat around and said, what are the skills? Because there were no geospatial intelligence programs at colleges and universities because we had just made the term up. It was passed into law, right? On the first, was enacted functionally the 1st of October, 2003. So they sat around and they spitballed and they said, well, it's a little of this and it's a little of that. And a program ought to be a little bit interdisciplinary and then that evolved over time. And then we went through a much more formal process. But the volunteers in those early days and everybody who kind of rolled up their sleeves and worked with this 501c3 educational nonprofit to help define this. When I got to the foundation, there were 3 accredited programs at Penn State's World Campus, at George Mason University, and at University of Missouri. So, and then by the time I left, I think we had 20 plus colleges and universities that had accredited programs, and then my successors have done phenomenal work expanding it. I still haven't answered your question. So I think it does get to AI. It does get to the adoption of new tools, new software applications. I think coming out of it is insufficient to be a button pushing expert on one giant company's software, but rather to be understanding of open source tools. And that gets back to your point earlier of the why, to truly understand why you're doing things, what you are producing, for what reason, towards what end, for what to be applied towards what problem, and then have the ability to understand and look at myriad tools and apply the right ones out of your toolkit to get the desired outcome. And you have to, and you have to have, I believe, a broader view than being able to use one set of tools that are rather ubiquitous. So I think it's a broad exposure to the tools, a broad understanding. Again, this is in the GEOINT context, a broad understanding of the emerging opportunities in remote sensing of all types across various phenomenologies. I'm a card carrying member of the radar mafia. I heart SAR, but the advances as we move to multispectral and hyperspectral. Working, certainly LiDAR from aircraft, but a company called NewView is working on LiDAR into space. So it is being able to be cognizant of and have the ability to understand how to reach into the ever-growing kit bag across the board of geospatial intelligence to assemble the right tools from that kit bag for the specific job that you're facing. And you should be able to be somewhat agile in that, because you have an understanding of everything that's at your disposal, and then you know how to pick from all that to move on. Yeah. I don't know if that's helpful.
No, that's very helpful. But want to just to piggyback onto it, with this industry evolving as rapidly as it does, or it is, like what's some advice you could provide? Anybody in the industry when it comes to staying abreast of the latest and greatest, technologies and advancements. Like how do you stay on top of it?
Yeah, it is. I think this is not certainly specific to the geospatial field, but it sounds sort of cliche, but it's just being a lifetime learner. It's just. I grew up reading newspapers and magazines, and I was voracious about it because I used to just like to go to the library and walk around the stacks. I was very fortunate. My parents, they bought me, the World Book Encyclopedia. And to me, it brought the whole world into the house. It was the analog internet, right?
Yeah.
That, exactly. Encyclopedia Britannica. And I would just, on a rainy day or homesick, watching Price is Right.
Yep.
And heating up my Lipton soup or whatever, and just go grabbing the letter
in there,
and saltines and ginger ale because that cured everything. And I going and grabbing the letter Y off the shelf, right, and just paging through it. And so then the internet came, and I don't think I haven't slept since. So
right,
I was very fortunate that it was instilled in me early, pretty aggressively, especially by my mother. Yeah. But this desire to learn, to grow, to learn, to see what's new, to shake it out, to seek it out. And that's why being given the opportunity as a younger person in the industry to go to a conference, right? I think as we get older, in some ways we roll our eyes about it, right? And it's a lack of sleep, and it's tired feet, and it's information overload, and we can all enumerate all the things about it that we don't necessarily enjoy. But man, it's I'm a kid in a candy store when I go to some of these events, right? And I can't go to there's too many things going on at the same time, and how do I choose?
Yeah.
And
we have that same problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What are some of the? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say. So as a junior person, what I always encouraged managers and leaders to do is when you got your junior person and they're manning your booth as you go off to your meetings and do all the things you're going to do, man, give them some time. And we did that at USGIF. We created a bunch of content in the exhibit hall. lightning talks and other presentations, technical presentations. And I just implored our exhibiting companies, let your young people go. They're not getting into the big symposium with all the big wigs and all the big speakers and the big room and all the glitz. But man, there's meaty content here. And even if we didn't, even before we had the stuff on special stages specifically to put educational, interesting content into the exhibit hall itself, just walking around and talking to people at other companies. What do you do? Here's what I do. There's these fantastic learning opportunities, and you got to just take advantage of them. And that's a really important differentiator.
Well said.
I'm still stuck on New View and doing LiDAR from space.
Oh yeah,
That's cool shit.
That's so cool. So cool.
Yeah. You should have Clint Graham and some of his folks on. It's an interesting challenge, and they're awesome. Going for it.
Right on. Well, we've stolen an hour of your time, which we greatly appreciate.
We do.
Before we let you get out of here, is there anything else you would like to talk about that maybe we haven't touched on?
Yeah, I as has been so often the case, professionally and personally, I've been I've just been amazed to be given the opportunity at this stage of my career, at this point in my life, to get involved in something which is game changing. It's just humbling to be a part of it. And it's a nonprofit that was stood up a few years ago, in 2024, building on an idea that was birthed by a number of folks, initially out of the Environmental Defense Fund. They put up methane sat, and coming along behind methane sat was something they were essentially calling fire sat, which was a purpose-built satellite to detect, monitor, and characterize wildfires globally. It became apparent pretty early on that it was going to have immediate operational utility beyond just all it was going to do for fire science and fire modeling. And so I got involved in the fall of 23 when some colleagues who were working on it asked me to put together an independent review team, because to date, it's been entirely philanthropically funded. So the funders wanted there to be an independent review team of the technology, of the requirements, and the way forward before they would put in additional funding. So I led that review team. I fell in love with the project. We gave it glowing review to the funders who released additional funding, and I joined the team. And I spend 75-80% of my time or more working on what we then created as Earth Fire Alliance, the nonprofit we stood up in 2024, funded $30 million by philanthropy to date from the Gordon Betty Moore Foundation, Google.org, the Minderoo Foundation, and a number of individual donors and some anonymous donors. Our first satellite is up, built and launched, operated by Muon Space, and it's performing beautifully. And as we learn, I've never had the benefit of having a prototype satellite up. We would put up very, very, very costly national security satellites, and lots of redundancy, very big, very expensive. But it was fingers crossed that it was gonna work, because there was we didn't have a prototype to launch. And we'll launch the first 3 of the objective constellation in June of 2026. So those 3 satellites plus the prototype satellite we are referring to as initial operating capability, or IOC. When we will continue a launch campaign. When we get to roughly 20 satellites, we'll have 1 hour revisit anywhere in the globe, and the ultimate final operating capability, FOC, would be roughly 50 satellites, would give us 20-minute revisit anywhere in the globe. And when you think about incredible losses in life and property enumerated in dollars globally due to wildfires, the fact that nobody has ever built a satellite for this purpose, it's almost hard to comprehend. It's just that it's a tough business model, because funding for wildfire is so diffuse. And so it was very challenging for anyone to make the business model close. But by doing it philanthropically to get started, and then figure out ways to support ourselves over time as we go forward with sales to governments and and commercial uses of the data as well. It's just poetic for me to be in a position where I'm having my kids are having my grandchildren, and I'm able to be involved in something that truly is going to be game changing for the planet. Just super humbling, learning every day, because it's the same context of mission, right? What I cut my teeth on was getting stuff from space to mud for warfighters, for the intelligence community. And it's getting stuff from space to mud, but it's to firefighters and fire modelers and fire scientists. And the enemy is wildfire, and support to beneficial fire as well, and understanding cool fire. And how we can manage fire on the planet, not just react to it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's amazing. Now I'm going to sound really smart here. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Are those satellites going to be LEO satellites, Keith?
Yes, they are. Look at you. You're kind of an expert.
Kind of an expert. Thanks to Brian Manning.
True. Yeah. Well, you just ruined it, but I would have thought you were smart.
Anyway, awesome. I just, man, the ability to do that every day. And
so cool.
It's a small team doing a lot. We've got some great partners to have the funders we have. Doing it in a non-profit context it's a lot, but it's the most important thing I will ever do professionally, without question.
Yeah. It's got to be an amazing feeling to be a part of something that's like literally changing.
Yeah.
Saving lives, saving properties. So much going on there. So are these satellites going to identify where a fire is, and then there's going to be this army of drones with like buckets of water on them, and they go fly over the fire and put it out before it becomes something big?
You Josh. However, fire tech, again, this is all about learning for me. I didn't speak this language. I didn't understand any of this. I didn't know anything about this. And I live on the East Coast in the Northeast, and wildfires are something that happen out there. Right?
Oh, yeah. Right. It's a problem here in Arizona, for sure.
Except that we had one. We had a couple in New Jersey last year, and a firefighter lost his life. So it's getting real, because fire season is all the time, and fire seasons and fires are happening in places they weren't. But the what's happening in the fire tech space is fascinating. And what this will be, again, back to our theme of the evening, perhaps, is about integration. So sensors on ranger stations, sensors on poles, drones, ISR, functionally aircraft. The state of Colorado has at least two beautifully put together ISR aircraft, primarily for wildfire, that I would have loved to have had in the Army. So there, and you think about the effort that CAL FIRE puts in. CAL FIRE is a remarkably tech forward organization, and they're a great one of the many global partners we have who are eager to get their hands on our data. And look at how to apply and give us feedback as we grow the constellation. So, and yes, there will be suppression technologies that take advantage of this data, so that, you have early detection. We were very fortunate, in the prototype satellite spotted a small grass fire, relatively cool, by the side of the road in Oregon, that never grew past half an acre. Wow. And we were able to detect that and pull that out. So the ability to understand, to as we say in the Army, to see first, understand first, act first, and finish decisively, was just in the context of wildfire fighting.
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Super cool. All right, well, I think we blew through an hour.
That was awesome.
I know, that's amazing.
Those are the best conversations.
Yeah,
no, don't be sorry.
No, we love it.
We love it. Yes. You have a good conversation when an hour goes by in like 15 minutes. So
yeah, absolutely. Keith, we always have one question we ask everyone at the end of the show, and I think you know what it is. Do you have a mantra that you live by?
I'm thinking I probably shared this one last time, so I've come loaded with a second one. So the one that I've really lived by for a long time is, we are all where we are because along the way, people, usually more than one, extended a hand and lifted us up, showed us a pathway forward when we maybe didn't think there was one, who was there when a door slammed and helped us understand that it wasn't the end of the world, even though it seemed like that to us. So we are all where we are because somebody extended a hand and helped us up. And I carry with that sentiment that then we in turn all have a responsibility to extend a hand to those who are coming behind us, to recognize and provide those same opportunities to people in whatever way we can, to help the people of the next generation follow in our footsteps, blaze their own trails, whatever. But we have an inherent responsibility to do that, because I'm not aware of anybody that has gotten where they are by themselves. Period.
Well said.
Yep. The other thing I'd add, the new one I'd add, is actually a lyric from Sugar Magnolia and the Grateful Dead. And my daughter has a set of notes in her phone that are all the ridiculous things that have occurred in the course of my life to date. And so in the book that I may never write, but it is certainly growing in the anecdotal archives of my daughter's phone, I came across this lyric, and if I was able to get permission, I think it would be the subhead or the title or something, and I want to read it so I make sure I get it right. Once in a while, you get shown the light in the strangest of places if you look at it right. And what that says to me is, we've all been through challenging times, whether it's family health issues or professional challenges or physical challenges, illness, whatever. We've all been through our share. We all have our box of those things. And I still think that in the darkest times that I've experienced, there were points of light. There were people, a compassionate nurse, a person who you didn't even think knew your name, who stepped in and mentored you, and. So it's kind of connected to that first one. But I just think, you can be shown the light in the strangest of places if you look at it right.
Love it. Do you know that song, Sean?
I know that song.
Oh, of course,
well.
Yes. Of course. Yep. That's fantastic, Keith. You're the best, man. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you guys so much.
Love catching up with you. We need to make this an annual thing.
We need to put him. He needs a 5-timer pajamas is what he needs.
We'll get there.
We need to get there quickly.
We'll get there. Yeah, we'll send him the boxer shorts for right now.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you for what you are doing and the stories you're telling. It is not a surprise that there's a lot of pickup in terms of audience, because it's an amazing field, and you guys are just having the conversations. You're butting in, you're demanding to talk to people, you're
right?
Cajoling
whether
them.
They want to or not, right?
Yeah,
right. And it's so important. It's just so important. So I appreciate you guys.
Well, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. Yep.
Take us out.
You ready, man?
I am ready.
All right, let's do this. All right, adding value, reconnecting with an old friend.
And remaking.
Yes, check those boxes. If anyone would like to be a guest on a future show, shoot us an email at info@thegeoholics.com. We're booking into January of next year.
Look at us.
So that's pretty exciting. Huge thanks to our partners, MLID, Topodot, Altera Central, Hexagon, NLC Prep, GeoNet, David Evans and Associates, and of course, our good friend Trent Keenan at Diamondback Land Surveying.
Let's throw in our good friends at Trimble. They really showed us a good time.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. They hooked us up as always. Spafford Doghouse, available everywhere. Until next time, everyone, couple takeaways. Tech is shrinking the world. We're still in a geospatial moment, but beware. Don't forget the sanctity of the seal. Never stop learning. And in the darkest times, look for the points of light.
Love it.
Most importantly, be safe and healthy, everybody.